The scratching at Henry Lawson's door shouldn't have existed. Nothing survived in a blizzard like this. Nothing with sense, anyway. But there it was, soft, persistent, the sound of something refusing to quit. Henry sat in his chair with a pistol on the table and a glass of whiskey he wasn't drinking, listening to wind tear at the cabin walls. 3 years he'd been up here. 3 years of silence and snow and the slow work of forgetting how to feel anything. The scratching came again. He ignored it. Let nature take its course. That's what he'd learned in Kandahar. The universe didn't care about your survival, it just waited to see if you'd earned it. But the sound didn't stop. Damn it! Henry grabbed his rifle, checked the chamber, and opened the door. Cold slammed into him. He couldn't see 5 feet through the snow. Then he looked down. The German shepherd was dying in a pool of red. Bullet wound along its ribs. One leg bent wrong. Chest barely moving. Henry's hands were on the dog before his brain caught up. He dragged it inside, kicked the door shut, laid it on the rug by the fire. Okay, soldier. Stay with me. His medic kit appeared in his hands, muscle memory from a war that never really ended. Airway clear. Breathing shallow. Pulse weak, but there. The leg was fractured. The bullet wound was the real problem. He cleaned it with iodine. The dog whimpered but didn't fight. Just watched him with dark eyes that had seen combat. You're trained. Military or police. Too disciplined for anything else. Henry stitched the wound with hands that still knew how, even when they shook. The dog's breathing steadied. The bleeding slowed. He splinted the leg with a broken chair leg and medical tape. That's the best I've got. Rest is up to you. The dog made a sound, half whine, half something else. Almost like gratitude. Henry washed his hands. Poured whiskey, actually drank it this time. Behind him, the shepherd was still watching. You need a name. No collar, no tags, nothing. I'm calling you Bear, because you're too stubborn to die. The dog's tail thumped once. Henry laughed, a sound that hurt, coming out rusty from disuse. Bear it is. He threw wood on the fire and settled into his chair. The storm hammered outside. Bear slept by the hearth. For the first time in 3 years, Henry wasn't alone. He told himself it didn't matter. The dog would heal and leave. Everything left eventually. But soldiers on a mission don't leave. Bear woke at dawn. Henry was already up making coffee, trying not to think about the date. 3 years since Owen Clark died in his arms. 3 years since he'd failed the only man who mattered. Movement behind him. Bear was standing, favoring the bad leg, but standing. The dog walked to the window and stared. Not casual. Not the way animals look at things. With purpose. You need out. Bear didn't respond. Just kept staring at one specific peak, Wolf Peak, highest point in the range. Henry opened the door. Go on. Bear limped outside, did his business, came right back to the window. Same spot. Same peak. What's up there? The dog whined, low, mournful. Henry's instincts kicked in. The ones that had kept him alive. Someone's up there. Someone you know. Bear's tail wagged once. They're in trouble. Another wag. They won't make it without help. Bear turned from the window, walked to Henry, and put one massive paw on his knee. The weight of it. The deliberate contact. The message. You can do this. I can't. The words came out harsh. I don't do rescues anymore. I couldn't save. He stopped. Bear walked to the door, looked back, waited. Henry stared at him. At this dog who'd crawled through a blizzard with a bullet in its side because someone needed help. You don't know what you're asking. Bear's answer was to stay at the door. Henry spent an hour making excuses, making coffee he didn't drink, thinking of reasons to say no. Bear never moved. Finally, Henry stood. Fine, but when we die up there, I'm blaming you. Bear's tail wagged. Henry geared up thermal layers, rope, ice axe, medical kit, rifle flares. Everything for a mountain rescue in winter. He wrapped Bear's splinted leg in canvas and duct tape. The dog tolerated it like a soldier accepting equipment. "This is insane. We're both injured, there's a storm coming, and I don't even know what we're looking for." Bear walked to the door and barked once, sharp, commanding, the bark of a working dog who expected to be followed. Henry looked at the photo on his mantel, him and Owen both younger, both smiling, both believing they'd make it home. "Okay, Owen, one more time." He opened the door and stepped into the cold. Bear took point immediately, moving fast despite the injury. No hesitation, no confusion, just mission focus. They climbed for 2 hours. Henry's knee screamed with every step. He pushed through it. Then Bear stopped. They'd reached a ridge, narrow, ice-covered, deadly. Sheer drop on one side, cliff face on the other. The only way forward was across. Henry tested the ice. "This is bad." He tied rope around Bear's chest, secured it to his own harness. "If one goes, we both go. Ready." Bear stepped onto the ridge. They moved, slow testing each step. Henry's heart hammered against his ribs. Halfway across his boot hit black ice. He was sliding. Feet gone. Heading for the edge. Heading for the drop that had been waiting since Kandahar. Then pain in his shoulder. Bear had his jacket in his jaws teeth, locked, all 4 legs braced. The injured leg trembling but holding. Henry's hand found his ice axe. He swung it, felt the pick bite rock. Held. They hung there, suspended over nothing. Pull. Bear pulled. Henry kicked, drove the axe deeper. Inch by inch back from the edge. They collapsed onto solid ground. Henry lay on his back, gasping. Bear limped over and lay on top of him. "You saved me," Henry whispered. The dog licked his face once, then stood and looked ahead. "We're not done." Henry forced himself up. His shoulder throbbed where Bear's teeth had grabbed him. "Worth it." They kept climbing. Another hour. The storm was building. Henry could feel it coming. Then Bear stopped and pointed with his nose. Henry looked. Through the snow, barely visible, was wreckage. A plane. Small twin engine. Crumpled against the rocks. Smoke rising from inside. Someone had a fire. Someone was alive. Henry's training took over. He surveyed the crash, looking for threats approach vectors. The plane was unstable. One wrong move could send it tumbling. "Stay," he told Bear. The dog sat. Henry approached, using rocks for cover. As he got closer, he saw movement through a cracked window. 2 figures. A woman with a splinted leg sitting against the wall. Pale, exhausted. A man in a pilot's jacket tending a fire. Henry was about to call out when the woman looked up. Their eyes met. She gave him a signal. Thumb tucked inside her fist. Fingers curled. The universal distress signal, "I'm in danger." Henry's blood went cold. Not a crash. A hostage situation. He pulled back, mind racing. The woman was a prisoner. The pilot was her captor. And someone had shot a dog to keep it from getting help. Bear appeared beside him, silent. "Guard," Henry whispered, pointing. "Watch. Alert if he moves." Bear took position, eyes locked on the fuselage. Henry circled wide, using terrain for cover. He needed intel, needed to understand what he was walking into. He found a position where he could see inside through torn metal. The woman sat with her back to him. The man Henshaw Henry would learn stood by the fire. A hatchet on his belt. A pistol on luggage nearby. Henry couldn't hear them, but the body language was clear. She was terrified. He was in control. Henry pulled out his radio-keyed emergency frequency. "This is Henry Lawson Emergency Band. Crashed aircraft on Wolf Peak GPS coordinates." He rattled them off. "One survivor in medical distress, possible hostage situation. Requesting immediate rescue. Weather window closing fast." The response crackled back. "Copy, Lawson. Rescue dispatching now. ETA 70 minutes. Can you maintain? Affirmative. Victim appears held against will. Send law enforcement. Copy. Deputies en route. 70 minutes. He could work with that. Henry found a gap in the torn fuselage on the blind side. He slipped through, moving silent. Inside was chaos: seats, torn loose, blood on walls, luggage scattered. But toward the front, a survival space. Fire blankets, supplies. Henry reached the woman, put his hand over her mouth before she could cry out, whispered in her ear. Military. Here to help. Rescue coming. Don't react. She nodded, tears streaming. He removed his hand. Who is he? The co-pilot. Henshaw. Her whisper was barely sound. He sabotaged the plane. Killed my father. Bear was my father's K9. Henshaw shot him when he tried to protect us. Henry's jaw clenched. What did your father do? Environmental investigator. Had evidence of corporate crimes. Henshaw was paid to make sure it never reached trial. She gestured to a briefcase under a seat. Everything's in there. Where's your father? Her face crumpled. Impact killed him. Henshaw was supposed to die too, but... Henry understood. Henshaw survived the crash, meant to kill him and the witness. Now he was cleaning up. Where is he? Gathering wood. Back any second. Footsteps crunched outside. Henry pulled back into shadow. The woman composed herself. Henshaw climbed in arms full of branches. Found deadwood. Should keep us warm. He stopped. Why do you look scared? I'm not. You are. What happened? Nothing. I thought I heard something. Henshaw dropped the wood, drew his pistol. What kind of something? An animal. Maybe a wolf. He wasn't buying it. His eyes scanned the interior. Henry knew he had seconds. He stepped out, hands visible. She heard me. Henshaw spun, gun coming up. Easy. I'm a hiker. Saw the smoke. Came to help. Nobody hikes in this. Who are you? Henry Lawson, former Army Ranger. I live in the valley. That's my cabin down there. Smooth lie, buying time. I know these mountains. I can guide you down when weather clears. Henshaw studied him. Henry could see the calculation: threat or opportunity. You alone. Just me. Show me your hands. Henry raised them slow. Check him. Henshaw told the woman, gun trained on Henry. She stood on her bad leg, patted him down, found his knife. Henshaw smiled. Combat knife. Rangers carry killers, not pocket knives. His expression hardened. Who sent you? Nobody. I told you. You're lying, too calm, too controlled. You moved like a soldier. He raised the gun. Last chance. Who are you working for? Henry's mind raced. 30 seconds before Henshaw pulled the trigger. Then a sound cut through the wind. A bark. Sharp, aggressive. Henshaw's head snapped toward it. What the? Bear launched through the window. 70 pounds of fury moving despite the injury, driven by something beyond pain. Henshaw fired. Missed. The bullet punched through metal. Bear hit him chest high. The gun went flying. Henry moved. He grabbed the hatchet from Henshaw's belt, threw it across the cabin. Then he was on Henshaw, grappling. But Henshaw was strong. He threw an elbow that caught Henry's jaw, drove a knee into his ribs. Henry went down, vision sparking. Henshaw grabbed the hatchet, raised it. Bear's jaws clamped onto his wrist. Henshaw screamed. The hatchet fell. Henry surged up, locked his arms around Henshaw's throat, applied pressure. 10 seconds. 20. Henshaw's struggles weakened. Stopped. Henry held another 5 seconds, then released. Henshaw collapsed unconscious. Silence except for breathing and wind. Henry sat back, ribs screaming. Bear limped over, collapsed beside him. Good boy. Such a good boy. The woman was crying, hands over her mouth. Henry found zip ties secured Henshaw's hands and feet. Then his radio. Lawson here. Situation secure. 1 hostile in custody. 2 survivors stable. Immediate evac requested. Copy. ETA 40 minutes. Henry looked at the woman. "What's your name?" "Hannah. Hannah Clark." The name hit like a bullet. Clark. Owen's name. "Your father. First name." "James. Why?" Henry felt the world tilt. Did he have a son, Owen? Hannah's eyes widened. "My brother. Died in Afghanistan 3 years ago. How do you—" Henry pulled up his sleeve. The leather bracelet. Braided, worn, faded. Owen had made it. Given it to Henry the day before he died. Said, "When you make it home, remember me." I served with Owen. He saved my life. I tried to save his. Henry's voice broke. "I failed." Hannah grabbed his hand. "You're Henry, the medic. He wrote about you, said if anything happened I should find you, that you were the best man he knew." Henry couldn't speak. 3 years of guilt of grief crashing down. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "You just saved me. You honored him by being exactly who he said you were." Outside, helicopter rotors grew louder. Bear's tail thumped weakly. Henry stared at the bracelet at Hannah, at this dog who'd led him to the one person in the world who could absolve him. "He sent you," Henry whispered to Bear. "Didn't he Owen sent you?" Bear's tail thumped again. And Henry Lawson, who'd spent 3 years convinced he'd failed, the only test that mattered, understood something profound. Redemption wasn't about changing the past. It was about refusing to fail the same way twice. The rescue team arrived 30 minutes later. 2 helicopters, medics, law enforcement. They loaded Hannah onto a stretcher, secured Henshaw in restraints, recovered the briefcase of evidence. Sheriff Martinez, a woman in her 50s, with the bearing of someone who'd seen everything, approached Henry. "You Henry Lawson?" "Yeah. The ranger who's been hiding in the mountains for 3 years." "I wasn't hiding." "Sure you weren't." She looked at Bear. "That the dog that showed up at your door? How did you—" "I'm a sheriff. I know things." She pulled out a notepad. "Tell me what happened." Henry told her. The crash, the hostage situation. Henshaw's confession, the fight. Martinez wrote it all down, asked sharp questions, nodded at the right places. "This briefcase." She gestured to where forensics was photographing it. "You know what's in it." Evidence. Corporate crimes. Hannah's father was investigating something big. James Clark was more than an investigator. He was going to testify before a grand jury next week. Somebody wanted him silenced. She looked at Henshaw, who was coming around in the other helicopter. "Somebody hired the wrong man for the job." "What happens now?" "We investigate, build a case, put people in prison." Martinez's expression softened. "And you go home a hero." "I'm not a hero." "You saved a woman's life and caught a killer. That's the definition of hero." She pocketed her notepad. "Hannah asked to see you before we fly her out. You up for that?" Henry nodded. He walked to the medical helicopter where Hannah lay wrapped in thermal blankets, her splinted leg elevated. She looked small and fragile and alive. "Henry." He sat beside the stretcher. "How you feeling?" "Like I got in a plane crash and almost died." She managed a weak smile. "But alive, thanks to you." "Thank Bear. He's the one who knew you were up here. Dad trained him, taught him to find help when things went wrong." Her eyes filled. "He was Dad's best friend. When Henshaw shot him, I thought we'd lost everything. He made it back. Barely, but he made it. Because of you." Hannah grabbed his hand. "Dad told me about Owen's letters, about how you saved his life in Kandahar, how you carried him 2 miles when he was hit, how you refused to leave him even when command ordered you to fall back." Henry felt his throat close. "I didn't save him. He died." "He died knowing someone cared enough to stay. That's not nothing." She squeezed his hand. "And you saved me. That's Owen's legacy living on through you." The medic interrupted. "Ma'am, we need to get you to the hospital." Hannah nodded, but kept holding Henry's hand. "Will you visit me when I'm recovered?" "Yeah, I will." "Promise?" "I promise." They loaded her into the helicopter. The rotors spun up. She waved through the window as they lifted off. Henry stood in the snow with Bear beside him, watching until the helicopters became dots against the gray sky. Martinez appeared at his shoulder. "You did good today, Lawson." "I did what anyone would do." "No, you did what a soldier does. You answered the call." She handed him a card. "That's my direct number. You need anything at all, you call me." "Why?" "Because men like you are rare, and I don't want you disappearing back into those mountains thinking you don't matter." She looked at Bear. "That dog knew better than to let you stay hidden. Maybe it's time you listened to him." She walked away, leaving Henry alone with his thoughts and his dog, and the realization that 3 years of isolation hadn't been healing, it had been hiding. The storm had passed. The sun was breaking through clouds. Henry looked down at Bear. "You ready to go home?" The dog's tail wagged. "Yeah, me too." They started the long walk back to the cabin, and Henry felt something shift inside him. Not healing exactly wounds that deep didn't heal fast, but maybe the beginning of it. The first step toward believing he deserved to be saved as much as anyone else. Bear limped beside him slower, now that the mission was complete exhaustion finally catching up. "You can ride if you want," Henry said. Bear looked at him like that was the stupidest suggestion he'd ever heard. Marines walked, Rangers walked, soldiers walked. Henry laughed. "Fair enough." They made it back to the cabin at sunset. Henry built up the fire, made food for both of them, and sat in his chair with Bear at his feet. His phone, unused for months, had 17 missed calls. All from the hospital. All from Hannah's number. He called back. She answered immediately. "Henry, thank God. I thought you weren't going to call." "Sorry, phone's been off. They're keeping me overnight for observation. Broken leg, mild hypothermia shock. But I'm okay." She paused. "Henry, I need to ask you something." "Okay." "Dad's funeral is next week. Will you come?" Henry's first instinct was to say no. Funerals meant people, meant questions, meant facing a world he'd been avoiding. But he looked at Bear, who was watching him with those knowing eyes. "Yeah, I'll be there." "Thank you." Her voice broke. "It would mean a lot. To me and to Owen's memory." After they hung up, Henry sat in the quiet, feeling the weight of the promise he'd just made. A week ago, he'd been ready to die alone in this cabin. Now he had a funeral to attend, a woman to support, and a dog who refused to let him quit. "What have you gotten me into?" he asked Bear. The dog's tail thumped twice. "That's not an answer." Bear laid his head on Henry's knee, warm and heavy and real. And Henry Lawson, who'd spent 3 years running from the world, realized he'd just taken the first step back into it. The funeral was in Denver, 3 hours down the mountain, and Henry hadn't left the cabin in 6 months. He stood in front of his closet at dawn, staring at the only suit he owned, the one he'd worn to Owen's memorial service 3 years ago. It still smelled like mothballs and regret. Bear sat at his feet watching. "I don't know if I can do this." The dog's tail thumped once. "That's easy for you to say. You don't have to face a room full of people asking questions." Bear stood, walked to the door, looked back. The message was clear. Stop making excuses. Henry pulled on the suit. It hung loose. He'd lost weight living alone, eating when he remembered surviving more than living. The drive down was quiet. Bear rode shotgun nose pressed to the window, watching the world pass. Henry's hands were tight on the wheel, knuckles white. His phone rang. Hannah's number. "Hello." "Henry, thank God. I was worried you wouldn't come. I'm 20 minutes out." "Thank you. I know this is hard for you." Her voice was steadier than it had been on the mountain. "The service starts at 10. There's someone I want you to meet before it begins." "Who?" "My mother. She doesn't know about you yet." About what you did for Owen or for me?" Hannah paused. "She's going to want to thank you. Fair warning, she's going to hug you. A lot." Henry's chest tightened. "Hannah, I don't need thanks." "I know. But she needs to give it. Let her, okay?" "Okay." The funeral home was exactly what Henry expected, tasteful, somber, full of people in black, who all looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. He parked in the back, let Bear out. The dog stayed close, reading Henry's tension. "You can't come inside, buddy. I'm sorry." Bear sat watching him with those knowing eyes. "I'll be back in 2 hours. Maybe less if I can't handle it." Henry crouched down, scratched behind the dog's ears. "Thank you, for getting me down here, for not letting me hide." Bear licked his face once, then settled into a down position by the truck. On guard, waiting. Henry walked toward the entrance, each step feeling like he was marching toward enemy fire. Inside, the air was thick with flowers and grief. People clustered in groups, speaking in hushed tones. Henry scanned for Hannah, found her near the front, talking to a woman in her 60s who had Owen's eyes. Hannah saw him, waved him over. "Mom, this is Henry Lawson." The woman, Catherine Clark, turned, and her expression crumbled the moment she saw the bracelet on his wrist. "You're Henry. Owen's Henry." "Yes, ma'am." She pulled him into a hug so tight it hurt. Henry stood there, arms at his sides, not knowing what to do with the physical affection. "Thank you," Catherine whispered. "Thank you for trying to save my son. Thank you for carrying him when he couldn't walk. Thank you for staying with him at the end." Henry's throat closed. "I should have done more." "You did everything." She pulled back, gripping his shoulders. "Owen's last letter home, the one that arrived after he died, he wrote about you. Said if anything happened to him, you were the one who'd make it home. Because you were too stubborn to die and too loyal to leave anyone behind." "He was wrong. I left him. You brought him home. His body came back because of you. We got to bury him. That's more than some families get." Catherine's eyes were wet but fierce. "And now you saved my daughter, saved James's evidence from being buried. You've given us justice twice over." Hannah touched her mother's arm. "Mom, there's something else, about how I survived." Catherine looked between them. "What am I missing?" "Bear, Dad's K9. He made it off the mountain, found Henry, led him back to me." Catherine's hand went to her mouth. "Bear's alive. Outside, in Henry's truck. I need to see him." They walked out together. Henry, Hannah on crutches. Catherine barely holding it together. When Bear saw them, he stood tail wagging slowly. Catherine dropped to her knees in the parking lot and the dog walked into her arms. She sobbed into his fur, and Bear stood perfectly still, accepting the grief, bearing the weight the way military dogs were trained to do. "James loved you so much," Catherine whispered. "He said you were the best partner he'd ever had." Hannah knelt beside her mother. "Bear saved me, Mom. He got shot protecting me from Henshaw, then walked through a blizzard to find help. He's a hero. He's James's legacy." Catherine looked up at Henry. "Are you keeping him?" Henry hadn't thought that far ahead. "I don't know. I assumed—" "Keep him." Catherine's voice was firm. "James would want him with someone who understands. Someone like you. I'm not— You're exactly right, and Bear knows it. Look at him." The dog had moved back to Henry's side, leaning against his leg. "See? He's already made his choice." Catherine stood, wiped her eyes. "We should go in. Service starts soon." The funeral was brutal. Speaker after speaker talking about James Clark, environmental hero, devoted father, man of integrity. Each word was a reminder of what Henshaw had tried to destroy. Henry sat in the back, hands clenched, fighting the urge to leave. Then Hannah stood to speak. "My father believed in truth, in justice, in fighting for what was right even when it was dangerous." Her voice was steady, strong. 3 days ago, someone tried to silence that truth, tried to make sure his evidence never saw daylight. But they didn't count on Bear. They didn't count on Henry Lawson. And they didn't count on the fact that good people still exist. She looked directly at Henry. My father spent his life protecting the environment. Henry spent his life protecting people. And when those two missions collided on a mountain in a blizzard, truth won. Justice won. Because people like my father and Henry refused to quit. The room was silent. So when you leave here today, remember that. Remember that one person with courage can change everything. One dog with loyalty can save lives. And one soldier who thinks he's done fighting can still be a hero. She sat down. People were crying. Catherine was gripping her hand, and Henry was standing walking toward the exit, chest too tight, breathing too shallow. He made it outside before the panic attack hit. His vision tunneled, his hands shook. He couldn't get enough air. Then Bear was there pressing against him, solid and warm. I'm okay. I'm okay. But he wasn't okay. He was drowning in memories. Owen dying, the firefight, the explosion, the screaming, the blood that wouldn't stop, the way Owen's eyes had gone distant and empty. Breathe, Henry told himself. Just breathe. Bear pushed harder against him, using his weight to ground him. Slowly the panic receded. The world came back into focus. Henry sat on the curb with his dog, and his grief waiting for his lungs to remember how to work. Someone sat beside him. Hannah, moving awkwardly on her crutches. That happened to me too. After the crash. Panic attacks. I'm fine. You're not. And that's okay. She was quiet for a moment. Owen had them too. Did you know that? Henry looked at her. What? After his first deployment. He came home for 2 weeks, and he'd wake up screaming. Mom found him in the garage one night, sitting in his car trying to breathe through a panic attack. Hannah's voice was soft. He told me later it was you who taught him how to manage them. Taught him breathing techniques, grounding exercises, all of it. I didn't know they worked. They worked well enough to get him through 3 more deployments. She touched his arm. He saved you, Henry, in ways you probably don't even realize. Let us save you back. I don't need saving. Everyone needs saving sometimes, even heroes. Before Henry could respond, Sheriff Martinez appeared. She looked official, all business. Lawson, I need a word. Henry stood. What's wrong? Henshaw's talking, gave up his employer in exchange for a reduced sentence. Martinez pulled out her phone, showed him a photo. Recognize this man. Henry studied the image. Corporate type, expensive suit, cold eyes. No. Who is he? Marcus Donovan, CEO of Donovan Energy. James Clark's investigation was going to expose their illegal dumping practices. Would have cost them billions and sent executives to prison. Martinez pocketed the phone. Henshaw says Donovan personally ordered the hit. We're executing a warrant tomorrow morning. Hannah's eyes widened. You're arresting him. We're trying, but Donovan's got resources, money, lawyers, connections. There's a chance he'll run before we can bring him in. Martinez looked at Henry. Which is why I need to ask you something. What? Donovan's got a private compound in Aspen. Security cameras, the works. If he's going to run, he'll do it from there. We need eyes on the property tonight. Someone who can track movement, report back, help us coordinate the arrest. Henry felt ice in his stomach. You want me to surveil him? I want you to do what you do best, be a soldier. Watch, report, help us catch a killer. Martinez's expression was serious. You're the only person I trust with this, and James Clark deserves justice. I'm not active duty anymore. You're a civilian consultant, as of right now. She handed him a badge. Temporary credentials, valid for 72 hours. What do you say? Henry looked at Hannah, who was watching him with Owen's eyes. What about Henshaw? Isn't his testimony enough? His testimony gets us Henshaw, The evidence in James's briefcase gets us Donovan if we can present it before his lawyers bury it in motions. We need to move fast. Martinez checked her watch. Warrant executes at 6 a.m. tomorrow. That gives you 12 hours to get into position and make sure he doesn't run. Henry's hands were shaking again, but this time not from panic, from adrenaline, from the pull of a mission, a purpose, something that mattered. I'll do it. Good. Martinez pulled out a folder. Here's everything we know about the compound. Layout, security systems, patrol schedules. Study it on the drive up. I'm not going alone. Who are you taking? Henry looked at Bear. My partner. The drive to Aspen took 4 hours, and Henry spent every minute studying the file. Donovan's compound was a fortress, 12-foot walls, security cameras, armed guards, motion sensors. Getting close without being detected would be nearly impossible, unless you'd spent 8 years infiltrating enemy positions. Bear slept in the passenger seat, conserving energy. He'd been trained for this surveillance patient's alertness. The injury was healing fast, the splint already off. Henry pulled into a rest stop 20 miles outside Aspen, studied the satellite images Martinez had provided. The compound sat on 50 acres, mostly wooded. 1 main house, 2 guest houses, a security station, 3 guards on rotation, 1 entrance heavily monitored. But the north side backed up to national forest. No cameras, minimal lighting. If Henry could approach from that direction, he might get close enough to observe without being detected. His phone buzzed. Hannah. Where are you? Doing something stupid. Martinez told me about the surveillance. Hannah's voice was tight. Henry, you don't have to do this. Yeah, I do. Why? You don't owe us anything. I owe your father justice. I owe Owen a debt I can never repay. And I owe myself the chance to stop running from who I am. Hannah was quiet for a long moment. Be careful. Please. Always. Henry. One more thing. If you get in trouble, call me. I might not be able to help, but I can at least know what's happening. I will. He ended the call, looked at Bear. You ready for this? The dog's tail wagged once. That's what I thought. They arrived at the compound perimeter at midnight. Henry parked 3 miles away, hiked in through the forest with Bear beside him. The north approach was exactly as the satellite images showed, dark wooded, minimal security. But Henry wasn't taking chances. He moved slow, checking for sensors, cameras, tripwires. Bear stayed close, nose working, alerting to every sound. They reached a position 50 yards from the main house with clear sight lines. Henry settled into a hide behind a fallen tree, pulled out his binoculars. The house was lit up, multiple vehicles in the driveway, people moving inside. Henry keyed his radio. Martinez, I'm in position. Confirming multiple occupants. Looks like Donovan's having a meeting. Copy. Can you get vehicle descriptions? We want to know who's there. Henry studied the cars. 3 SUVs, all expensive. 1 Bentley, 1 Porsche. High-end vehicles, 5 total. Want me to run plates? Negative. Too risky. Just observe and report any movement. Copy. The next 3 hours were silent watching. People came and went from the house. Donovan appeared once on a balcony talking on his phone. Even from 50 yards, Henry could see the tension in his body language. At 3 a.m., everything changed. A van pulled up. 4 men got out. Not guards, contractors. Tactical gear, weapons, military bearing. Henry's instincts screamed. Martinez, I've got armed personnel arriving. 4 men, tactical equipment. This isn't security. This is a strike team. Copy. Hold position. Do not engage. They're not here for security. They're here for cleanup. What do you mean? I mean Donovan knows you're coming, and he's eliminating witnesses. Before Martinez could respond, gunfire erupted inside the house. Henry's blood went cold. Shots fired. Multiple shots. They're killing everyone inside. Get out of there, Lawson, now. There might be survivors. I said get out, that's an order. But Henry wasn't active duty, and he'd never been good at following orders when people were dying. "Come on, Bear, we're going in." He moved fast, using the chaos as cover. The tactical team was inside, focused on their targets. The guards were confused, trying to figure out what was happening. Henry reached a side entrance, tested it. Locked. Bear whined, then moved to a window, scratched at it. Henry checked. Unlocked. Careless. He slipped inside Bear right behind him. The house was chaos. Gunfire, shouting, breaking glass. Henry moved through the ground floor, staying low, looking for survivors. He found one in a bathroom, a woman mid-40s hiding in the shower. Blood on her arm from a graze. "Don't shoot," she gasped. "I'm not with them. I'm here to help. Can you walk?" "I think so." "Then follow me. Stay quiet. Stay close." They moved toward the exit. Henry could hear the tactical team above them, methodical and efficient. These weren't amateurs. They were professionals. They almost made it out. One of the contractors appeared at the end of the hallway, weapon raised. "Hey, stop!" Henry pushed the woman behind him, raised his hands. "Don't shoot. We're leaving." "Nobody leaves." The contractor's finger tightened on the trigger. Bear exploded from the shadows. The dog hit the contractor at full speed, teeth finding his weapon arm. The gun clattered away. Henry was on him in seconds, driving a knee into his ribs, wrenching the arm behind his back until something popped. The contractor screamed. Henry silenced him with a chokehold. "Go," Henry told the woman. "Out the window into the woods, run north until you hit the road." "What about you?" "I'm right behind you." She ran. Bear stood guard, watching the hallway. Henry searched the contractor, found a radio. He keyed it. "This is Unit 3, ground floor secure, moving to second level." The response crackled back. "Copy, Unit 3. Henry had maybe 2 minutes before they realized Unit 3 wasn't reporting accurately. He moved fast, Bear beside him, heading for the stairs. If there were more survivors, they'd be on the upper floors hiding. He found two, a man and a woman, locked in a bedroom, terrified. "Window, now! Run north to the road, rescue's coming!" They didn't argue, just ran. Henry's radio crackled. "Unit 3, report position." He didn't respond. "Unit 3, confirm." Silence. Then, "We've got a problem. Someone's inside. Find them." Henry heard boots on the stairs. At least 2 men moving fast. He grabbed Bear, pulled them both into a closet, closed the door. The footsteps passed. Paused. Came back. "Check that room." The door opened. Henry held his breath. Bear was perfectly still. The contractor swept the room with his weapon eyes scanning. He was about to close the door when Bear growled, low, soft, deliberate. The contractor spun. "Got something." Henry hit him from behind, driving him into the wall. They grappled, fought, struggled for the weapon. The gun went off. The bullet punched through the ceiling. The contractor's knee found Henry's injured leg. Pain exploded. Then Bear was there, jaws on the man's ankle, pulling him down. Henry got the weapon reversed. It drove the butt into the contractor's temple. He went down hard. But the gunshot had given away their position. Henry could hear running feet, multiple boots converging on their location. "Time to go." He ran, Bear beside him, heading for the stairs. 2 contractors appeared at the top. Henry fired twice, suppressing fire not to kill, and they ducked for cover. He made it to the ground floor, heading for the exit. Then he saw Donovan. The CEO was trying to leave through the front door, briefcase in hand, looking terrified. Their eyes met. "You," Donovan gasped. "You're the one who saved her." "Yeah, and you're the one who tried to kill her." Donovan raised his hands. "Wait, we can make a deal. I have money, lots of money. Name your price." "I don't have a price." "Everyone has a price. Not soldiers." Henry moved closer. "And not people who've seen what you're capable of." Donovan's expression hardened. "Then you're a fool." He pulled a pistol from his briefcase, fired. The bullet missed Henry by inches. Bear didn't miss. The dog took Donovan down, teeth finding his gun hand. The weapon fell. Donovan screamed. Henry was on him, zip-tying his hands, securing him. "You're under arrest for murder conspiracy and being a terrible shot." Sirens cut through the night. Red and blue lights flooded through the windows. Martinez's voice came over the radio. "Lawson, if you're alive, respond." "I'm here. I've got Donovan. 4 contractors inside, all hostile. 3 civilians escaped. I need medical and backup." "On the way. Hold tight." The next 20 minutes were chaos. FBI agents swarmed the compound. Medics treated the injured. The contractors were taken into custody. Martinez found Henry sitting on the front steps with Bear, both of them exhausted. "You were supposed to observe and report." "I did. Then I improvised." "You saved 4 lives. 5 if you count the dog." Martinez sat beside him. "Donovan's talking. Gave up his entire organization. Lawyers, accountants, everyone involved. This is bigger than we thought." "How much bigger?" "Federal corruption, bribery, environmental crimes across 6 states. Your rescue just broke open the biggest white-collar case in a decade." She smiled. "Not bad for a guy who was hiding in the mountains 6 months ago." Henry looked at Bear, who was watching him with those knowing eyes. "I had help." "Yeah, you did." Martinez stood. "Come on, we need your statement. Then you can go home." "Home? The cabin, or wherever you're calling home these days." She paused. "Hannah's been calling every 10 minutes. You should probably let her know you're alive." Henry pulled out his phone, dialed. Hannah answered before the first ring finished. "Henry." "Oh my God, are you okay?" "I'm fine. Donovan's in custody. It's over." "Martinez told me what you did, that you went inside, that you saved people." "It's what Owen would have done." "No." Hannah's voice was firm. "It's what you do. Stop giving Owen credit for who you are." Henry felt something crack in his chest. "I don't know who I am anymore." "Then let me tell you. You're a man who saves people, who doesn't quit, who keeps fighting even when you think you're done." Her voice softened. "You're exactly who my brother said you were, and it's time you believed it." After they hung up, Henry sat with Bear in the back of an ambulance while medics checked him over. Bruised ribs, strained knee, nothing serious. But he felt different. Not healed wounds that deep didn't heal fast, but lighter. Like he'd been carrying weight for 3 years and finally set it down. Martinez appeared with coffee. "You'll need to testify. At Donovan's trial. Probably others too." "Okay." "You okay with that being in the public eye?" "No, but I'll do it anyway." "Good." She sipped her coffee. "One more thing. Hannah asked me to ask you something." "What?" "Her father's investigation. It's going to take months to process all the evidence. Maybe years. She wants to help. Wants to finish what he started." Martinez met his eyes. "She's asking if you'll help her. Consulting security, whatever she needs." "Why me?" "Because you're the only person she trusts, and because you've got nothing better to do." Henry looked at Bear. "What do you think?" The dog's tail thumped twice. "I think that's a yes," Martinez said. Henry finished his coffee, felt the weight of a new mission settling on his shoulders. Not the same as the old ones. Not combat, not life and death, but important, meaningful, something worth doing. "Tell her I'm in." Martinez smiled. "Good. Now go home. Get some rest. You've earned it." The drive back to the cabin took 6 hours, and Henry spent every minute thinking about the last 72 hours. He'd gone from isolated to involved, from hidden to seen, from broken to something close to whole. All because a dog had shown up bleeding on his porch and refused to let him quit. When they finally reached the cabin, dawn was breaking over the mountains. Henry let Bear out, watched the dog immediately claim a spot by the fireplace. His phone buzzed. A text from Hannah. "Thank you for everything. Dad would be proud. Owen would be proud. I'm proud." Henry read it 3 times, then set the phone down. He looked at Owen's photo on the mantel. "I'm trying, brother. I'm really trying." Outside, the sun cleared the peaks, flooding the valley with light. And Henry Lawson, who'd spent 3 years hiding from the world, realized he was finally ready to step back into it. Not because he'd healed completely, but because healing was a mission same as any other, and soldiers never quit their missions. 2 weeks after the Donovan arrest, Hannah showed up at Henry's cabin unannounced. He was outside chopping wood when her rental car pulled up the drive. She got out on crutches, moving better than before, but still slow. "You're hard to find," she said. "That's the point." "Can we talk?" Henry set down the axe. Bear trotted over to greet her, tail wagging. "Hey, Bear." She scratched his ears, then looked at Henry. "I need your help." "With what?" "Dad's investigation. The evidence from the briefcase, it's bigger than we thought. Donovan wasn't working alone. There's a whole network. Politicians, executives, lawyers, and someone's trying to bury it." Henry felt his gut tighten. "What do you mean, bury it?" "Files are disappearing. Witnesses are recanting. The federal prosecutor who was handling the case just resigned. No explanation." Hannah's voice was tight. "Someone's cleaning up, and I think they're coming for the original evidence." "Where is it?" "Safe deposit box in Denver. Under Dad's name. Only I have access now." She met his eyes. "I need to retrieve it, copy everything, get it to journalists who can't be bought, but I can't do it alone." "Martinez can help you." "Martinez has been reassigned to a desk job in Wyoming, effective immediately." Hannah's expression was grim. "They're isolating everyone connected to this case." Henry's hands curled into fists. "When do we leave?" "Now. The bank closes at 5. It's a 3-hour drive." He looked at Bear. The dog was already at the truck waiting. "Let me grab my gear." They made it to Denver by 4:30, parking 2 blocks from the bank. Henry surveyed the area, standard downtown street, moderate foot traffic, security cameras on every corner. "Stay in the truck," Hannah said. "I'll be 5 minutes." "Not happening. Someone's trying to stop you from getting that evidence." "You really think they're not watching the bank?" "You think they know I'm coming?" "I think if I wanted to stop you, I'd have people at every location where that evidence might be, and this bank is the obvious target." Henry opened his door. "Bear stays with the truck. We go in together." They walked to the entrance. Henry's instincts were screaming something was wrong. He just couldn't see what yet. The bank was quiet. Tellers behind glass, a few customers, one security guard who looked bored. Too quiet. Hannah approached the desk. "I need to access a safe deposit box. James Clark's account." The clerk checked her computer. "ID, please." Hannah handed over her license. The clerk studied it, typed something, then smiled. "One moment." She disappeared into the back. Henry's hand moved to his concealed weapon, the one Martinez had authorized him to carry as a consultant. "Something's wrong." "You're paranoid." "I'm experienced. There's a difference." The clerk returned with a manager. 50's expensive suit, nervous smile. "Ms. Clark, there's been a complication." "What kind of complication?" "Your father's safe deposit box was flagged by federal authorities. I'm not authorized to grant access without proper documentation. I'm his daughter. I have legal authority." "I understand, but—" The manager glanced at someone behind them. Henry turned. 2 men in suits had entered. Not bank employees. Federal agents, maybe. Or contractors pretending to be. "Ms. Clark," one of them said, "we need you to come with us." "Who are you?" "Department of Justice. We have questions about your father's investigation." Hannah didn't move. "Show me credentials." The man reached into his jacket. Henry's hand went to his weapon. Slowly. The man pulled out a badge. DOJ looked legitimate, but Henry had seen enough fake credentials to know they could be manufactured. "We can do this easy or hard," the agent said. Your choice. She's not going anywhere without a lawyer, Henry said. And you are her security consultant. The second agent smiled. You must be Lawson, the hero from the mountain. Something in his tone made Henry's blood run cold. These men knew who he was, which meant they'd been watching. Hannah, we're leaving. Sir, if you interfere with a federal investigation, show me a warrant, show me probable cause, show me anything that gives you legal authority to detain her. Henry moved between Hannah and the agents. Or get out of our way. The first agent's hand moved toward his weapon. Bear's bark cut through the bank like a gunshot. The dog was at the entrance, Hackle's raised teeth bared. He must have sensed danger broken his stay command. Everyone in the bank froze. Call off your dog, the agent said. He's not attacking, he's warning. There's a difference. Henry's voice was calm, but his heart was racing. Last chance. Warrant or we walk. The agents exchanged glances. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Then the first one smiled. Our mistake. We'll be in touch through proper channels. They walked out casual and unhurried. But Henry saw the way they looked at the security cameras, noting angles and positions. We need to leave, now. Hannah grabbed his arm. What about the evidence? It's compromised. They know you're here. They'll have the box emptied before you can file the proper paperwork. So what do we do? Henry thought fast. Your father was smart. He wouldn't keep all his evidence in one place. Where else would he hide copies? Hannah's eyes widened. His office. At the university. He had a private lab. Can you access it? I'm on the approved list. But Henry, if they're watching the bank, then they're probably watching the university too. Henry pulled out his phone, called Martinez. I need a favor. You used up your favors when you improvised at Donovan's compound. Then I need one more. Hannah's trying to access her father's evidence. We've got fake federal agents trying to stop her. Martinez was quiet for a moment. Where are you? Downtown Denver. First National Bank. Get out of there. Now. I'm sending local PD for protection. How long? 10 minutes. We might not have 10 minutes. Then improvise again. You're good at that. Henry ended the call. Come on, we're going out the back. They moved through the bank past confused tellers heading for the employee exit. Bear stayed close, alert and ready. They burst into the alley. Empty, but not for long. Which way to your car? 2 blocks north. They ran. Hannah was slow on the crutches, so Henry supported her, moving as fast as she could manage. Behind them, the sound of car doors. Engines starting. They're following. I know. They reached the truck. Henry got Hannah inside. Bear jumped in the back seat, and they were moving before the doors fully closed. In the rearview mirror, a black SUV pulled out of a side street. We've got a tail. Hannah looked back. Can you lose them? In downtown traffic, not likely. Henry pulled out his phone, called Martinez again. Where's that backup? 5 minutes out. Where are you? Heading east on Colfax. Black SUV on our tail, 2 occupants possibly armed. Do not engage. I repeat, do not. The SUV accelerated, pulled alongside them. The passenger window rolled down. Henry saw the weapon. Get down! He yanked the wheel hard right, cutting across 2 lanes. The gunshot missed, punched through the passenger window where Hannah's head had been. They're shooting at us. Hannah's voice was high, terrified. Yeah, I noticed. Henry accelerated, weaving through traffic. The SUV stayed with them, professional and persistent. Another shot. This one hit the rear panel. Bear barked, angry and protective. It's okay, boy. Stay down. Henry's mind raced. He couldn't outrun them, couldn't outgun them, not with Hannah in the truck. His only option was to get to backup before they got cornered. Martinez, how far? 3 blocks. Blue and red lights, you can't miss them. Henry saw them, two patrol cars' lights flashing, blocking an intersection. He accelerated toward them. The SUV fell back, not wanting to engage with law enforcement. Henry skidded to a stop beside the patrol cars. Officers were already out, weapons drawn, shouting commands at the SUV. The black vehicle reversed, turned, disappeared into traffic. An officer approached Henry's window. "You Lawson?" "Yeah." "Sheriff Martinez says you're in trouble. Those men in the SUV just tried to kill us. We'll put out a bolo. In the meantime, you need to come to the station, give statements." Henry looked at Hannah. She was pale, shaking, but alive. "You okay?" "No, but I'm not giving up." Her voice steadied. "We need that evidence, from Dad's office. Not today. Today we survive. Tomorrow we fight." The police station was chaos. Detectives asking questions, federal agents showing up demanding jurisdiction, lawyers appearing from nowhere representing interests Henry didn't understand. Through it all, Martinez was a wall of stone. "My consultant and his client were attacked by armed assailants," she told the federal agents. "Until I know who's legit and who's trying to kill witnesses, nobody gets access to them without my authorization." "Sheriff, we have federal authority. I have 2 attempted murder victims and a crime scene. Federal authority doesn't override state jurisdiction on attempted homicide. So either show me credentials that check out or get out of my investigation." The agents left angry but defeated. Martinez pulled Henry and Hannah into a private room. "Tell me everything." They did. The bank, the fake agents, the chase, the shooting. When they finished, Martinez was quiet for a long time. "Someone wants that evidence buried bad enough to commit murder in broad daylight. That means it's bigger than corporate fraud. This goes higher." "How high?" Henry asked. "High enough that federal agents are either compromised or being impersonated. High enough that reassigning me wasn't random, it was strategic." Martinez leaned forward. "I made some calls while you were giving statements. James Clark's investigation wasn't just about Donovan Energy. It was about a network. Politicians taking bribes, regulators looking the other way, judges dismissing cases. The entire system corrupted." Hannah's face went pale. "Dad knew. He told me once that if anything happened to him, it would mean he'd gotten too close to something dangerous." "He got too close, all right. And now they know his daughter has access to everything he knew." Martinez's expression was grim. "You're not safe, Hannah. Not here. Not anywhere they can find you." "Then where do I go?" "Somewhere they won't look. Somewhere off the grid." Martinez looked at Henry. "You still have that cabin?" "Yeah." "Take her there. Both of you disappear for a few days while I figure out who we can trust." She handed Henry a burner phone. "Use this. Your regular phones are probably compromised. I'll contact you when it's safe." "What about the evidence?" Hannah asked. "At Dad's office. I'll have a team retrieve it, quietly, under the radar." Martinez stood. "But right now your priority is staying alive. Let me worry about the rest." They left through a back exit using a police vehicle Martinez had arranged. No one followed them out of Denver, but Henry didn't relax until they were an hour into the mountains. Hannah sat in silence, staring out the window. Bear had his head on her shoulder, offering comfort. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "I shouldn't have dragged you into this." "You didn't drag me. I chose to come." "Why?" "You don't owe me anything." Henry was quiet for a moment. "Your brother saved my life, multiple times. I owed him a debt I could never repay, but maybe I can repay it by keeping you alive." "That's not your responsibility." "It is now." They reached the cabin after dark. Henry did a full security sweep, checking perimeter setting alerts, preparing defensive positions. Old habits from a war that never really ended. Hannah watched him work. "You really think they'll come here?" "I think they'll come eventually. Question is whether Martinez can stop them first." He finished checking the windows, turned to face her. "But if they do come, we'll be ready." "I don't know how to fight." "You don't have to. That's what I'm here for." That night Henry couldn't sleep. He sat by the window with his rifle watching the tree line, waiting for threats that might or might not come. Bear lay beside him, alert but calm. Hannah appeared around midnight, moving quietly on her crutches. "Can't sleep either. Every time I close my eyes, I see that gun pointing at me." She sat in the other chair. "How do you do it? How do you live with this kind of fear? You don't live with it, you use it. Fear keeps you sharp, keeps you alive." Henry looked at her. "But you can't let it control you. Can't let it stop you from doing what's right." "And what's right?" "Finishing what your father started. Exposing the truth. Making sure he didn't die for nothing." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." "You survived a plane crash, a hostage situation, and someone trying to kill you today. You're stronger than you think. I had help. I had you. And you still have me. For as long as you need." They sat in silence, watching the darkness, waiting for dawn. The burner phone rang at 3 a.m. Henry answered. "Martinez." "We've got a problem. Major problem." "What happened?" "James Clark's office at the university was ransacked 3 hours ago. Computers destroyed, files burned, everything that could hold evidence is gone." Henry's stomach dropped. "What about copies?" "That's the thing. I think they missed something. The university has automatic backups of all faculty computers. Cloud storage encrypted, maintained by IT." Martinez's voice held a note of hope. "If James uploaded anything to his university account, we might still have it." "Can you access it?" "Not without Hannah's authorization. She's his next of kin, which means she inherited access to his academic accounts." Henry looked at Hannah. "You hear that?" She nodded. "What do I need to do?" "Come back to Denver. Tomorrow morning. IT department opens at 8. We'll have officers with you the whole time." "Is it safe?" "Safer than waiting for them to figure out about the backups. We've got maybe 12 hours before they think of it too." Henry made the decision. "We'll be there." "Good. I'll have a security team meet you at the city limits. And Henry, watch your back. These people are desperate." The drive back to Denver started before dawn. Henry pushed the truck hard, wanting to get there and get out before anyone realized what they were doing. Hannah was quiet, nervous energy radiating off her. "You okay?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." That's all courage is. Being terrified and doing it anyway. They met Martinez's security team at the city limits. 4 officers, 2 vehicles, all heavily armed. "We're going to convoy," the lead officer said. "You stay between us. Anyone tries anything, we have your 6. The drive to the university was tense. Henry kept checking mirrors, scanning for threats, hand never far from his weapon. They made it without incident. The IT department was in the basement of the science building. Martinez was already there, along with a technician who looked young enough to be in high school. "This is Aaron. He's going to help us access your father's backup files." Hannah provided her credentials. Aaron typed, rapidly navigating through security protocols. "Okay, I'm in. Professor Clark had extensive cloud storage. Looks like..." Aaron's eyes widened. "Whoa!" "What?" Martinez leaned over his shoulder. "He's got over 5 terabytes of data. Documents, videos, audio recordings, spreadsheets. This isn't just research. This is..." "Evidence," Hannah finished. "That's everything Dad collected. Everything they tried to destroy." "Can you copy it?" Henry asked. "I can download it to an external drive, but it'll take hours." "We don't have hours," Martinez said. "Can you upload it somewhere else? Multiple locations." Aaron thought for a moment. "I can push it to 3 separate cloud services simultaneously. Different companies, different servers, different jurisdictions. If someone tries to delete it from one, the others remain." "Do it." Aaron's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Starting upload now. Estimate 90 minutes for complete transfer." 90 minutes. Henry looked at Martinez. "That's a long time to be sitting still." "I know, but it's the only way." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling in more backup. We're going to lock this building down." The first hour passed without incident. Officers secured all entrances. Aaron monitored the upload progress. Hannah paced despite her injured leg. Henry stood by the window watching. Then his phone rang. The burner Martinez had given him. But Martinez was standing right there. "Don't answer it," she said, voice tight. "Who is it? If I'm calling you on this phone, it means our security is compromised. If someone else is calling..." Henry answered anyway. "Who is this?" A man's voice, cultured and cold. "Mr. Lawson, you're causing problems." "Who am I talking to?" "Someone who'd like to make you an offer. $5 million. Cash, untraceable. All you have to do is walk away. Leave the girl. Leave the evidence. Disappear." Henry's hand tightened on the phone. "Not interested." "You should be, because the alternative is that everyone in that building dies. You, the girl, the sheriff, all those officers. We have the building surrounded. Snipers in position. One word from me, and it's over." Henry looked out the window. Movement in a building across the street. More in a parking structure. The man wasn't bluffing. "You're willing to kill police officers. I'm willing to do whatever's necessary to protect important people. The question is, are you willing to let innocent people die for evidence that won't change anything? The evidence will expose corruption. The evidence will get buried in litigation for years. Courts will be tied up. Appeals will drag on. And in the end, a few executives might get fined. That's all." The voice was calm, reasonable. $5 million, Mr. Lawson, for you and the girl. Enough to disappear and live comfortably. All you have to do is stop fighting." Henry looked at Hannah, at Martinez, at the officers who'd put their lives on the line. "Here's my counteroffer. You stand down, you let us leave with the evidence. And maybe I don't hunt down every single person in your network and make sure they face justice." The man laughed. "You're a idealist. I admire that. But idealism doesn't stop bullets." "Neither does money, but training does. Combat experience does. And I've got 8 years of both." "Then I'll see you soon, Mr. Lawson, one way or another." The line went dead. Henry turned to Martinez. "We've got snipers, multiple positions. They're going to hit us. When? As soon as that upload finishes. They're waiting to make sure they destroy all the evidence." Martinez grabbed her radio. "All units, we have confirmed hostile presence. Snipers in overwatch positions. Prepare for assault." Aaron looked up from his computer, face pale. "Uploads at 70%. 20 minutes until completion." "Yin, can you speed it up?" "Not without corrupting data." Henry's mind raced. 20 minutes. They couldn't hold out that long against a coordinated assault. But if they evacuated now, they'd lose the evidence. Unless... "Aaron, can you access those cloud accounts from anywhere?" "Yeah, why?" "Because we're not staying here." Henry grabbed Hannah's arm. "We're leaving. Now." "But the upload will continue without us. Once it's done, the evidence is safe no matter what happens to us." He looked at Martinez. "We need a diversion. Something to make them think we're still here." Martinez understood immediately. "I'll keep most of my team here. You take 2 officers and go out the maintenance tunnel." "There's a tunnel. Every university building built in the 60s has them. Steam tunnels connecting all the major structures." She grabbed a map from the wall. "This one leads to the parking garage 3 blocks away. They won't expect you to come out there." "What about you?" "I'll hold them as long as I can. Give you time to get clear." Martinez's expression was fierce. "Go! Now!" They moved fast, Henry, Hannah Bear, and 2 officers. Downstairs through a basement door into a tunnel that smelled like rust and old steam. Behind them, the sound of gunfire. The assault had started. Henry pushed forward, supporting Hannah Bear, ranging ahead to scout. The tunnel was narrow, dark, full of pipes and shadows. They were halfway through when Henry heard footsteps behind them moving fast. "They're in the tunnel." One of the officers turned back. "I'll hold them. Keep moving. Officer, my job is to protect civilians, so go. Let me do my job. They kept moving. Behind them, the sound of gunfire in the confined space was deafening. Then silence. The second officer was on his radio. Unit down. Hostiles in pursuit. We need... He never finished. A bullet found him from the darkness ahead. They'd been flanked. Henry pushed Hannah into a side passage, raised his weapon. Stay down. Bear guard. Men emerged from both directions, contractors in tactical gear, moving with military precision. Henry fired twice, dropped the lead man. The others took cover. Lawson, one of them shouted. Last chance, surrender the girl and you walk. Henry's response was another shot. Then Bear was moving a shadow in the darkness, hitting the closest contractor. The man went down screaming. Henry used the distraction to advance clearing angles, taking shots. 2 more contractors down. But there were too many. He was going to run out of ammunition before they ran out of bodies. Then light flooded the tunnel. Federal agents, drop your weapons now. Real federal agents this time. Henry could tell by the way they moved, the way they spoke. Professional, authorized, legitimate. The contractors realized it too. Some surrendered immediately. Others tried to run and were tackled. In minutes, it was over. An agent approached Henry. You Lawson? Yeah. Director Chen sent us. Said you might need help. He looked at the bodies. Looks like she was right. Martinez appeared looking battered, but alive. Everyone okay? The officers who stayed behind. 1 injured, 1 dead, but they held the line long enough. Her voice was heavy. The upload finished. All 3 cloud backups confirmed. The evidence is secure. Hannah was crying, holding on to Henry's arm. We did it. Dad's work is safe. Yeah. Henry felt exhausted. We did it. But as they walked out of that tunnel into daylight, surrounded by federal agents and police, Henry knew this wasn't over. The evidence was safe. But the fight was just beginning. The safe house was a federal facility outside Boulder, guarded by agents Director Chen personally vetted. Henry stood at the window, watching the perimeter, while Hannah slept in the next room, exhausted from 48 hours of running. Bear lay by the door, ears rotating at every sound. Martinez arrived at dawn with coffee and bad news. The officer who died in the tunnel, his name was Marcus Webb, 26 years old. Wife's pregnant with their first kid. She set the coffee down hard. He died protecting evidence of crimes committed by people who'll never see a day in prison. You don't know that. Don't I? We've got 5 terabytes of data. Know what the DOJ just told me, that it'll take 18 months just to process it all. Another 2 years before any charges get filed. Then appeals, motions, delays. Martinez's voice was bitter. By the time this goes to trial, everyone involved will have destroyed everything that connects them to it. Henry felt cold. So Webb died for nothing. I didn't say that. I said the system's broken. There's a difference. She pulled out a folder. But here's something that's not in the system yet. Something I found buried in James Clark's files that nobody else has seen. What? Names. Specific names of who's running this network. Not just Donovan. Not just the CEOs and politicians. Martinez opened the folder. The person coordinating everything. The one who ordered James Clark's murder, who sent contractors after you, who's been cleaning up loose ends. She showed him a photo. Senator Victoria Hayward, 60 years old. 3rd-term Senator Chair of the Environmental Oversight Committee. She's been protecting polluters for 20 years. Taking bribes disguised as campaign contributions, blocking legislation, burying investigations. James Clark was about to expose all of it. Martinez's eyes were hard. She's the head of the snake. Can you arrest her? On what charge? The evidence links her to Donovan Energy, but it's all circumstantial. Campaign contributions, dinner meetings, policy decisions that coincidentally favor her donors. Any decent lawyer tears that apart in court. So what do we do? We need something direct. A recording and email, something that proves she ordered criminal activity. Martinez closed the folder. And I think I know where to find it. Hannah appeared in the doorway, hair tangled from sleep. Where? Your father's personal files, the ones that weren't in the university system. He kept a separate backup encrypted hidden. I found references to it in his notes. Martinez looked at Hannah. Do you know where he'd hide something like that? Maybe. He had a storage unit for old case files and personal items. He never talked about what was in it, but he paid the rent every month like clockwork. Where? Aurora, East Side. I have the unit number in my phone. Martinez stood. Then that's where we're going. Wait, Henry grabbed her arm. If we figured this out, so did Hayward's people. They'll be watching storage facilities waiting for us to show up. Then we don't give them time to set up. We go now fast before they can react. Or we're walking into an ambush. That's why you're coming with us. You're good at ambushes. The storage facility was in an industrial area, rows of orange metal units behind chain-link fence. They arrived in 2 vehicles, Martinez driving one with Hannah Henry, following in a federal SUV with Bear and 2 agents. The place looked empty. Too empty. I don't like this, Henry said into his radio. Neither do I, but we don't have a choice. Martinez parked near the entrance. Hannah, which unit? 317, second row middle. They got out. Henry's hand stayed near his weapon. Bear was tense alert. The unit was closed with a padlock. Hannah pulled out keys, fumbled with the lock. Hurry, Martinez said, scanning the area. The lock clicked open. Hannah rolled up the door. Inside was exactly what you'd expect. Boxes, old furniture, file cabinets. Hannah went straight to a specific cabinet, pulled out the bottom drawer, reached underneath. It's here. There's a false bottom. She pried it up, pulled out a laptop. This is Dad's personal computer, the one he used for sensitive work. Can you access it? I know his password. He made me memorize it in case something happened to him. Hannah opened the laptop, typed rapidly. I'm in. What's on it? Hannah's face went pale. Everything. Audio recordings of Senator Hayward ordering bribes, video of meetings where they discussed eliminating whistleblowers, financial records showing money laundering. Her hands were shaking. This isn't just evidence. This is proof. Copy it. Now. Hannah pulled out a flash drive, started the transfer. That's when Henry heard it, the sound of vehicles approaching fast. We've got company. 3 SUVs blocked the entrance. Men poured out, 8, maybe 10, all armed. Federal agents, Martinez shouted. Stand down. The response was gunfire. Everyone scattered. Henry pulled Hannah behind a row of storage units, Bear beside them. Martinez and her agents took cover behind vehicles. Copy still running, Henry asked. Hannah checked the laptop. 60%. 2 minutes. We don't have 2 minutes. More gunfire. The contractors were advancing, methodical and professional. Martinez's radio crackled. We need backup. Now. Backup's 15 minutes out. We'll be dead in 5. Henry made a decision. Bear, stay with Hannah. Protect. The dog positioned himself between Hannah and the threat, hackles raised. Henry moved, using the storage units for cover, flanking the contractors. He dropped 2 with precise shots, then had to retreat as return fire tore through the metal walls. One of Martinez's agents went down, hit in the leg. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Then Bear started barking, not the aggressive bark of a threat, but the alert bark of incoming. Helicopters appeared over the horizon. Federal, judging by the markings. The contractors heard them too. They started retreating, dragging their wounded, heading for their vehicles. Henry let them go. No point in more bloodshed. The helicopters landed. More agents poured out, securing the area. Director Chen herself stepped out of the lead helicopter. Everyone alive. 1 agent injured, otherwise intact. Martinez stood covered in dust. They were waiting for us. Of course they were. Hayward's been monitoring every move we make. Chen walked to where Hannah sat with the laptop. Is that it? Yes, full recording video, everything. Good, because Senator Hayward just held a press conference announcing her retirement due to health reasons. She's fleeing. Henry felt fury burn through him. She's running. She's trying to. I've got teams at every airport, train station, and border crossing. She won't get far. Unless she's already gone. Chen's expression darkened. She'll have a contingency plan. Private plane, fake passport somewhere without extradition. She pulled out her phone, made a call. I need satellite tracking on all private aircraft departures in the last 2 hours. Priority 1. While Chen worked, Martinez pulled Henry aside. Webb's widow is asking about what happened. What do I tell her? Tell her the truth. That her husband died stopping corrupt people from escaping justice. That his sacrifice mattered. Will it matter, I mean, if Hayward gets away? She won't get away. You sound certain. I am, because I'm not letting her. Henry looked at Bear. We've come too far to quit now. Chen returned. Found her. Private jet filed flight plan to Grand Cayman 2 hours ago. She's in the air right now. Can you intercept? Not legally. Once she's in international airspace, our jurisdiction ends, and Cayman doesn't extradite for financial crimes. Chen's jaw tightened. She planned this perfectly. When does she land? 90 minutes. Hannah stood laptop in hand. What if we release everything now before she lands? Put it all online where everyone can see it. That compromises the investigation. Defense lawyers will claim we tainted the jury pool. So what? At least people will know the truth. At least Dad's work won't die with him. Hannah's voice was fierce. Senator Hayward destroyed lives, killed. My father tried to kill me. I don't care about legal procedure anymore. I care about justice. Chen studied her for a long moment. If you release that evidence, you become the story. Every news outlet will hunt you down. Your life will never be private again. I don't care. You should. People who expose powerful corruption tend to have short, difficult lives. Then I better make what time I have count. Hannah opened the laptop, started uploading files. Chen didn't stop her. 20 minutes later, every major news outlet had the recordings. Audio of Senator Hayward ordering hits. Video of bribe exchanges. Financial records showing decades of corruption. The story exploded. Within an hour, protests formed outside Hayward's offices. Within 2 hours, other senators were calling for investigations. Within 3 hours, the president issued a statement condemning corruption. And somewhere over the Atlantic, Senator Victoria Hayward watched her entire empire crumble in real time. Henry sat with Hannah while she did interviews with journalists. Bear stayed close protective. Martinez handled security. How do you feel? Henry asked during a break. Terrified, exhausted, angry. Hannah managed a weak smile, but also relieved, like I finally did something that matters. Your father would be proud. I hope so. I hope Owen would be too. Henry felt his throat tighten. Owen would have been first in line to help. He never backed down from a fight, even when the odds were impossible. Tell me about him. The real him. Not the hero everyone talks about. So Henry did. He told her about Owen's terrible jokes, his obsession with old country music, the way he'd share his rations with stray dogs. About the time Owen stayed up all night helping a local kid with homework. About his letters home full of hope despite everything. He believed in people, Henry said quietly. Even when they didn't deserve it. Even when they let him down. Like you believe in people. I don't. Yes, you do. You believed I could finish Dad's work. You believed Martinez could be trusted. You believed Bear would lead you to someone worth saving. Hannah's eyes were wet. You're more like my brother than you realize. Before Henry could respond, Chen appeared. We've got a situation. What now? Hayward's plane turned around. She's flying back to the U.S. Why would she do that? Because her lawyers told her the evidence was released publicly. Running makes her look guilty. But if she comes back, faces charges, claims she's innocent, and this is all a political hit job, she might survive this. Martinez swore. She's going to fight. She's going to lose. With those recordings, she'll be convicted, but it'll take years. Appeals delays legal maneuvering. Chen's voice was flat. She'll spend her remaining years in court, not in prison. That's not justice, Hannah said. No, but it's the law. Henry stood. Where's she landing? Denver International, 3 hours. I want to be there. Why? Because I want her to see the people she tried to kill. Want her to know we didn't quit, that we didn't run. Henry's voice was hard. I want her to understand that some people can't be bought or scared off. Chen nodded slowly. I'll arrange it. The airport was chaos. News crews everywhere, protesters holding signs, federal agents securing the perimeter. Henry stood with Martinez and Hannah behind a security barrier watching the private terminal. Hayward's plane landed. Taxied to the gate. The door opened. Senator Victoria Hayward emerged looking every bit the dignified politician. Expensive suit, perfect hair, confident stride. But when she saw the crowd, something in her expression cracked. Federal agents met her on the tarmac. One of them read her rights while cameras captured every word. Hayward's eyes found Henry through the crowd. They locked gazes. Henry didn't smile, didn't gloat, just stood there with Bear beside him, a silent reminder of what loyalty looked like. Hayward's lawyer was already shouting about due process and political persecution. Reporters were screaming questions. Protesters were chanting. But through it all, Henry heard something else. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut. The sound of justice imperfect and slow, but arriving nonetheless. Martinez put her hand on his shoulder. We did it. Not yet. Not until she's convicted. She will be. Those recordings are ironclad. Henry wanted to believe that, wanted to trust the system would work. But he'd seen too much corruption, too much failure, too many guilty people walking free. What happens now? Hannah asked. Now you testify. At trial, at hearings, at every proceeding they need you for. Martinez's voice was gentle. It'll be hard. They'll attack your credibility, your father's reputation, everything. But you've got the truth on your side. Will that be enough? It has to be. The federal agents led Hayward away in handcuffs. The crowd surged forward. Camera flashes exploded. And Henry Lawson, who'd spent 3 years hiding from the world, realized he'd become part of a story bigger than himself. A story about a father who'd fought corruption. A daughter who'd finished his work. A dog who'd refused to let his handler's sacrifice be meaningless. And a soldier who'd learned that healing meant fighting for something worth fighting for. They left the airport through a side exit, avoiding the press. Chen had arranged protection for Hannah, full-time security safe housing, everything she needed until the trials were over. What about you? Hannah asked Henry. Where will you go? Back to my cabin. Back to the mountains. You're leaving. Not leaving, just taking a break, processing everything. He looked at Bear. We both need some quiet. Will I see you again? At the trial. When you need support. When Martinez calls. Henry managed a small smile. I'm not disappearing. Just stepping back. Hannah hugged him tight and desperate. Thank you. For everything. For saving me. For helping me finish Dad's work. For being exactly who Owen said you were. Thank your father. And Bear. They're the heroes. You're all heroes. Henry and Bear drove back to the cabin in silence. The mountains appeared on the horizon unchanged and eternal. When they finally arrived, Henry sat in his truck for a long moment, just staring at the place that had been his refuge and his prison. Bear whined, impatient to be home. Yeah, me too, buddy. Inside, everything was exactly as he'd left it. Owen's photo on the mantel, the chair by the window, the rifle by the door. But it felt different. Lighter somehow. Henry built a fire, made coffee, settled into his chair with Bear at his feet. His phone rang. Not the burner, his actual phone. Hannah's number. "Henry, sorry to call so soon, but there's something I need to tell you." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I've been going through more of Dad's files, the ones from his personal storage, and I found something." Her voice was emotional. "Letters. From Owen to my father. From Afghanistan." Henry's chest tightened. "What do they say?" "They talk about you. About how you saved his life multiple times. About how you were the best medic and the best friend he'd ever had." Hannah's voice broke. "The last letter, the one he wrote the day before he died, he asked Dad to look after you if anything happened to him. To make sure you made it home okay. To tell you that none of it was your fault." Henry couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "He knew he might not make it," Hannah continued. "But he wanted you to know that you did everything right, that you gave him every chance, that you were a hero even when you couldn't save everyone." "Hannah, there's more. He wrote that if something happened to him, he wanted you to have his father's watch, the one Dad kept after Owen died. I have it here. I want you to have it." "I can't." "Yes, you can, because that's what Owen wanted, and because you earned it by being exactly the person he believed you were." After they hung up, Henry sat in the dark with Bear staring at the fire. All this time, he'd carried Owen's death like a weight, like a failure he could never overcome. But Owen hadn't seen it that way. Owen had seen a friend who'd fought for him, stayed with him, refused to abandon him. Owen had seen a hero. Maybe it was time Henry did too. The next morning, Henry woke to someone knocking on his door. He grabbed his rifle, checked the window. Martinez stood on his porch holding coffee. "You alone? Just me and caffeine. Can I come in?" Henry let her in. Bear greeted her like an old friend. "I'm not going back to Denver," Henry said. "Not yet." "I know. That's not why I'm here." Martinez handed him the coffee. "I'm here to ask you something." "What?" "Director Chen is putting together a task force, going after the rest of Hayward's network. All the politicians, executives, regulators who were part of the corruption. It's going to take years. It's going to be dangerous. And we need people we can trust." "You want me to join?" "I want you to lead it. You've got military experience, investigative instincts, and most importantly, you can't be bought." Martinez met his eyes. "You said some people can't be scared off. Prove it. Help us finish this." Henry looked at Bear. The dog's tail wagged once. "What would it involve?" "Tracking down witnesses, protecting them, building cases, testifying at trials, being the person who stands between corruption and justice." Martinez smiled slightly. "Pretty much what you've been doing for the last month. Just official." "I'm not a cop." "No, you're better. You're someone who actually gives a damn." She set down her coffee. "Think about it. You don't have to decide today. But Henry hiding in this cabin isn't healing. It's just slower dying. And you've got too much left to do." After Martinez left, Henry stood on his porch watching the sun climb over the peaks. 3 months ago, he'd been ready to die alone up here, convinced he'd failed everyone who mattered. Now he had a choice: return to isolation or step into the world and fight for something bigger than himself. Bear appeared beside him, pressing against his leg. "What do you think, boy? Ready for another mission?" The dog's answer was to walk to the truck and wait. Henry laughed. "I'll take that as a yes." He looked at Owen's photo one more time, felt the leather bracelet on his wrist. "Okay, brother, let's finish what you started." Henry grabbed his gear, locked the cabin, and climbed into his truck. Bear rode shotgun nose to the wind. They drove down the mountain toward Denver, toward justice, toward a future Henry hadn't believed possible. And for the first time in 3 years, Henry Lawson wasn't running from his past. He was building a future worth living. Not because the pain had stopped, but because he'd finally found a reason to carry it. Some wounds never fully heal. Some losses stay with you forever. Some failures haunt you until you die. But that doesn't mean you stop fighting. That doesn't mean you stop trying. That doesn't mean you stop believing that one person with courage can change the world. Owen had believed that. James Clark had proved it. And Henry Lawson was going to honor both of them by spending the rest of his life making sure their sacrifices mattered. Because that's what soldiers do. They complete the mission, even when it takes everything they have, even when the cost is too high, even when victory means simply refusing to quit. Henry drove toward Denver with Bear beside him, and purpose in his heart, ready to fight the next battle. Ready to be the person Owen had always believed he could be. Ready to prove that loyalty, courage, and truth still mattered in a world that tried to bury all three. The mountain disappeared behind him. But Henry Lawson, for the first time in years, was finally moving forward. Director Chen's task force headquarters was a converted warehouse in North Denver, staffed by agents who'd proven themselves uncorruptible. Henry arrived on a Monday morning with Bear and a commitment he wasn't entirely sure he could keep. Chen met him at the door. Wasn't certain you'd show. Neither was I. Good. Certainty makes people complacent. She led him inside. Let me show you what we're dealing with. The main room was covered in boards, photos, documents, connection maps showing the network Hayward had built over 20 years. Dozens of names, hundreds of connections, corruption so deep it had infected every level of government. This is everyone we know about, Chen said. Probably only half of who's actually involved. Henry studied the boards. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We start with the weakest links, the ones most likely to flip. Build cases bottom up until we reach the top. Chen pointed to a photo. This is Gerald Moss. State regulator took bribes to approve illegal permits. He's scared isolated, and his lawyer's already hinting at cooperation. You want me to interrogate him? I want you to convince him that cooperation is his only option. You're good at reading people, at making them understand consequences. Chen smiled thinly. And you're scary when you need to be. When do I start? Now. Moss is being held at the Federal Detention Center. His lawyer's expecting you in 30 minutes. Gerald Moss looked exactly like Henry expected, mid-50s, soft around the middle, sweating despite the air conditioning. His lawyer sat beside him, expensive suit and calculating eyes. Henry sat across from them with Bear at his feet. The dog had a way of making people nervous. Mr. Moss, I'm Henry Lawson. I work with the task force investigating Senator Hayward's corruption network. My client has nothing to say without a deal in place. I'm not here to offer a deal. I'm here to explain reality. Henry leaned forward. You took bribes to approve permits that poisoned groundwater. Children got sick. People died. That's not white-collar crime. That's manslaughter. Moss went pale. I didn't know. You knew. You took the money and approved the permits and told yourself it wasn't your fault. Henry's voice was cold. But it was your fault. Every sick kid, every family drinking poisoned water, every person who trusted you to do your job, that's on you. The lawyer intervened. Mr. Lawson, my client is willing to discuss cooperation if the charges are reduced. The charges are what they are: murder, corruption, conspiracy. The only question is whether your client spends the rest of his life in prison or helps us catch the people who put him in this position. Moss was crying now. They threatened my family, my daughter. Said if I didn't cooperate, she'd have an accident. Who threatened you? I don't know his name, just a man. He'd show up at my office, tell me which permits to approve, which inspections to ignore. What did he look like? Moss described him. Henry pulled out photos from the Donovan operation. Him? No. This guy was younger. Military haircut. Scar on his left hand. Henry felt something click. He'd seen that description before in Martinez's files. A contractor who'd worked for multiple corporations, enforcer and fixer. His name's Carson. Jacob Carson. Former Marine dishonorable discharge, works for whoever pays. Henry showed Moss another photo. Is this him? Yes, that's him. Good. Write down everything you remember. Every permit he asked you to approve, every meeting, every threat. Everything. If I do that, he'll kill me. If you don't, you'll die in prison. Pick your poison. Moss looked at his lawyer, who nodded reluctantly. We'll cooperate. Full cooperation in exchange for witness protection and reduced charges. I'll recommend it, but the evidence better be good. Henry left the room, called Chen. Moss is flipping. He's giving us Carson. The fixer. That's huge. Carson's connected to at least a dozen other cases. Chen's voice held satisfaction. Good work. It's a start. What's next? We've got 3 more like Moss. Low-level players who took bribes and now want out. Work them. Build the case. Find Carson. Over the next 2 weeks, Henry interviewed 7 witnesses. Some cooperated immediately. Others needed convincing. One tried to run and was arrested at the airport. Each one added pieces to the puzzle. Names, dates, amounts. The network was bigger than anyone had imagined, not just environmental crimes, but tax fraud, money laundering, election interference. And at the center of it all, Jacob Carson. The man who made problems disappear. Finding him wouldn't be easy. Men like Carson knew how to hide. But Henry had spent 8 years hunting people who didn't want to be found. He was working late in the office when Hannah called. Henry, sorry to bother you. I know you're busy. Never too busy. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I wanted to hear your voice. Make sure you're okay. I'm fine. How are you? Testifying tomorrow, at Hayward's preliminary hearing. I'm terrified. You'll do great. Just tell the truth. What if that's not enough? What if she gets off on a technicality? Then we keep fighting. We don't quit. Henry's voice was firm. Your father didn't quit. Owen didn't quit. You don't quit. That's how we win. Hannah was quiet for a moment. Will you be there? At the hearing. Wouldn't miss it. The courthouse was a circus. Media everywhere, protesters on both sides, security screening everyone. Henry arrived early. With Bear took a seat in the back of the courtroom. Hannah sat at the prosecution table, looking small and scared. But when she saw Henry, something in her expression steadied. Senator Hayward entered in handcuffs, wearing a prison jumpsuit instead of her usual designer suits. She looked diminished, but her eyes were still sharp and calculating. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The hearing began with legal arguments Henry didn't fully understand. Motions to dismiss challenges to evidence, procedural disputes. Then the prosecutor called Hannah to the stand. She walked up slowly, placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. Ms. Clark, can you tell the court about your father's investigation? Hannah's voice started shaky, but grew stronger. She told them about James Clark's work, his dedication to truth, his discovery of the corruption network. And what happened when your father prepared to testify? Someone tried to kill us, sabotaged our plane. We crashed on a mountain. My father died on impact. Who was responsible? The co-pilot, Thomas Henshaw. He confessed that he'd been hired to eliminate us and destroy the evidence. Who hired him? Hannah looked directly at Hayward. Senator Victoria Hayward. We have recordings of her ordering the hit. Hayward's lawyer was on his feet, immediately objecting, demanding the recordings be excluded. The judge ordered a recess to review the evidence. During the break, Henry found Hannah in a private room. She was shaking, adrenaline crash hitting hard. You did great. She was staring at me the whole time, like she wanted me dead. She probably does. But she's in handcuffs and you're free. That's what matters. What if the judge excludes the recordings? Then we use the financial records, the witness testimony, the paper trail. We've got her 10 different ways. Henry squeezed her hand. Trust the process. The judge returned and denied the motion to exclude. The recordings were admitted as evidence. Hayward's lawyer tried to recover, arguing the recordings were taken out of context, that his client was merely discussing business strategy. But the jury's faces told the story. They'd heard a senator ordering murder. Context didn't matter. The preliminary hearing ended with Hayward bound over for trial. Full charges, no bail, trial date set for 6 months out. As they led her away, Hayward's eyes found Henry one last time. She smiled, cold and cruel. "This isn't over, Mr. Lawson. You've made powerful enemies. So have you. Difference is mine are still free." Outside the courthouse, Hannah was swarmed by reporters. She handled them better than Henry expected, answering questions with composure and grace. Martinez appeared beside Henry. "That went well." "Too well. Hayward's not worried. That bothers me. Maybe she's delusional. Thinks her lawyers will find a loophole. Or she knows something we don't." Henry watched Hayward's prison transport drive away. "She's planning something. Then we stay vigilant." That night, Henry returned to his temporary apartment, a small place Chen had arranged near the office. Bear immediately claimed the couch. Henry was making dinner when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Lawson, we should talk." Male voice, calm, professional. Henry's instincts screamed. "Who is this?" "Jacob Carson. I believe you've been looking for me." Henry's hand moved to his weapon. "Why are you calling?" "Because I want to make a deal. I give you everyone in the network, names, evidence, everything. In exchange, I walk away clean." "That's not how this works." "It is if you want to win. Hayward's planning something. An appeal strategy that'll get her charges dismissed. But I can stop it. I can give you what you need to put her away forever." "What does she have planned?" "Meet me. Tonight. I'll tell you everything." "Where?" Carson gave him an address. An abandoned warehouse in Commerce City. "Come alone. Bring the dog if you want. But no backup, no wires. If I see federal agents, the deal's off." "How do I know this isn't a trap?" "You don't. But you're a soldier. Soldiers take risks when the mission matters." Carson paused. "Midnight. Don't be late." The line went dead. Henry immediately called Chen. "Carson just contacted me. Wants to meet." "It's a trap." "Probably. But what if it's not? What if Hayward really does have something planned? Then we surveil the meeting, position teams in Overwatch, wire you up." "He said no backup. If he sees agents, he bolts." "So we don't let him see them." Chen was already mobilizing. "What's the location?" Henry gave her the address. She pulled up maps, studied approaches. "We can get eyes on that warehouse from multiple positions. Long-range surveillance, thermal imaging, the works. You go in, we watch from distance. Anything goes wrong, we're 30 seconds away." "What about the wire?" "We've got new tech. Smaller, undetectable. Even if he searches you, he won't find it." 2 hours later, Henry was in the tech lab, getting fitted with a microphone the size of a grain of rice, surgically placed under his skin near his collarbone. "It'll transmit for 72 hours before the battery dies," the technician explained. "Audio only, but crystal clear. We'll hear everything." "What about scanning devices?" "Won't show up on standard sweeps. He'd need military-grade detection equipment." "What if he has that?" "Then you're screwed. But hey, at least we'll hear you die." The tech wasn't good at comforting people. At 11:30, Henry drove to Commerce City with Bear. The warehouse was exactly what he expected, isolated, multiple exits, perfect ambush site. Chen's voice came through his earpiece. "We've got 4 teams in position. Thermals show 1 person inside. Could be Carson, could be a decoy. Only one way to find out." Henry parked, let Bear out. The dog was tense, alert, reading threats. "You think this is a bad idea too, huh?" Bear's tail didn't wag. That was answer enough. They approached the warehouse. The door was unlocked. Inside was dark, lit only by moonlight through broken windows. Henry's eyes adjusted slowly. "Carson?" "Over here." a figure stepped from shadow. Tall, lean military bearing. The scar on his left hand was visible even in the dim light. Jacob Carson looked exactly like a killer, should calm, controlled, dangerous. You came alone. Good. What do you want? To make a deal. I give you evidence that destroys Hayward's defense. You give me immunity. What evidence? Carson pulled out a phone. Hayward's been meeting with jurors, bribing them, threatening them, ensuring she gets an acquittal. I've got video, audio, everything. It's jury tampering on a scale that'll blow the trial wide open. Why tell me this? Why not just run? Because running means looking over my shoulder forever. But if Hayward goes down hard, if the network collapses completely, I can disappear without anyone hunting me. You've killed people, threatened witnesses. Why should we deal with you? Because I'm offering you the win. Complete victory. Hayward in prison, her network destroyed, justice served. Carson's smile was cold. Or you can be principled, reject my deal, and watch her walk free on appeal. Your choice. Henry's mind raced. Everything about this felt wrong. But if Carson was telling the truth, show me the evidence. Carson held out the phone. Henry reached for it. That's when the lights came on, blinding and sudden. Federal agents, hands up, not Chen's team. Different agents, different uniforms. Homeland Security judging by the patches. Henry's stomach dropped. What is this? Carson was already moving, pulling a weapon. It's a setup, Lawson. Run. Gunfire exploded. Carson went down, hit multiple times. Henry dove behind a concrete pillar, pulling Bear with him. Chen. What's happening? No response. Just static. The Homeland agents were advancing. Henry Lawson, you're under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and murder of a federal informant. What Carson's not? Jacob Carson was working with us, providing information on the corruption network. You were recorded conspiring to kill him and destroy evidence. It hit Henry like a physical blow. This was Hayward's plan. Frame him, discredit him, destroy the investigation from inside. I was set up. Carson called me. We have recordings of you arranging this meeting. We have evidence you threatened him, and now he's dead. The lead agent's voice was flat. On the ground. Now. Henry looked at Bear. The dog was watching him, waiting for orders. Run or surrender. Fight or trust the system. Every instinct said fight, but that would prove their narrative, make him look guilty. Bear down. Stay. The dog obeyed reluctantly. Henry raised his hand, stepped out from cover. I'm cooperating, but I'm innocent. Tell it to the judge. They zip-tied his hands, searched him, found his weapon. One agent reached for the earpiece. No wire. He's clean. Because the real wire was under his skin, which meant Chen heard everything. As they led Henry away, he looked back at Carson's body. The man's eyes were open, staring at nothing, and in his hand, just visible, was a phone. Not the one he'd shown Henry, a different one. Henry understood. The real evidence wasn't on display. It was hidden. And whoever killed Carson had made a mistake. They'd left it behind. The federal detention center was nothing like the temporary holding where they'd questioned Moss. This was high security, designed for dangerous criminals. Henry sat in an interrogation room for 3 hours before anyone talked to him. Finally, a Homeland Security agent entered. 50's hard eyes, no sympathy. Mr. Lawson, you're in serious trouble. I was set up. Carson called me, said he had evidence. We know what he said. We have recordings. Unfortunately for you, we also have recordings of you threatening him 2 weeks ago. That's impossible. I've never spoken to Carson before tonight. The agent played audio, Henry's voice crystal clear. Tell Carson if he doesn't cooperate, there will be consequences. Fatal consequences. It was his voice, his cadence, his tone, but he'd never said those words. That's fake. AI generated or edited somehow. Voice analysis confirms it's authentic. Stress patterns, breathing, everything matches. The agent leaned forward. You arranged to meet Carson. You killed him. You did it to protect the corruption network. That's insane. I'm the one investigating the network. Or you're part of it, a corrupt former soldier helping dirty cops and politicians. The agent smiled. It's a compelling narrative. Jury will eat it up. Henry felt the walls closing in. This wasn't just a setup. It was sophisticated, planned, backed by resources he couldn't fight. I want a lawyer. Of course. But here's the thing, every lawyer you'd trust is connected to the task force, which means they're potential co-conspirators. Judge might not let them represent you. That's a violation of my rights. Rights are complicated when national security is involved, and jury tampering definitely involves national security. Henry understood. They were going to isolate him, control his defense, ensure he couldn't fight back. Hayward had outplayed them all. He was in holding when Chen finally appeared. She looked furious. They won't let me in, won't let me see the evidence, won't even confirm you're here. She spoke through the barrier glass, voice tight. But I know what happened. I heard it all through the wire. Then you know I'm innocent. I know, but I can't prove it. Not yet. Chen glanced at the guards. They're claiming jurisdiction over the whole investigation, shutting us down, seizing all our evidence, claiming we've been compromised. Can they do that? They are doing it. Whether it's legal is a question for lawyers. She pressed her hand against the glass. But Henry, I'm not giving up. None of us are. We'll figure this out. What about Hannah? Is she safe? Protected. Martinez has her in a secure location. They can't touch her. Good. That's good. Henry felt exhaustion crashing down. Chen, I'm sorry. I walked into this. I should have known better. You took a risk for the mission. That's what soldiers do. She smiled grimly. Now let me do my job and get you out of here. But getting him out proved harder than anyone expected. The charges were filed formally the next day. Conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, tampering with a federal witness. Bail was denied due to flight risk. Henry's court-appointed lawyer was competent but overwhelmed. They've got you on video approaching Carson. They've got audio of threats. They've got Carson dead and you at the scene. I was set up. I believe you, but proving it is going to be nearly impossible. The lawyer pulled out files. The good news is there are some inconsistencies. Carson's wounds don't match the angle of fire if you were behind the pillar. The Homeland agents arrived too fast, like they were already in position. And the phone, the one Carson was holding, disappeared from evidence. Someone took it. Someone with access to the evidence room, which means someone inside law enforcement is compromised. The lawyer met his eyes. This goes higher than we thought. A week passed. Henry sat in a cell while the world moved without him. News reports called him a corrupt soldier, a traitor, a murderer. The corruption investigation was suspended. Several witnesses recanted their testimony. Hayward's lawyers filed motions claiming prosecutorial misconduct, demanding charges be dropped. Everything James Clark had worked for, everything Hannah had fought for, was collapsing. And Henry was powerless to stop it. Then on day 8, Bear appeared, not outside his cell, inside it. Henry woke to find the dog lying beside him, calm and patient. How did you... The cell door was open. The guard station was empty. Someone had orchestrated a breakout. A note lay on the floor. Follow Bear. Trust no one else. H. Hannah. Henry dressed quickly, followed the dog. Bear led him through corridors that should have been guarded but were empty. Downstairs through maintenance areas into a tunnel. The same kind of tunnel they'd used to escape in Denver. They emerged 3 blocks from the detention center. A car was waiting. Hannah in the driver's seat, Martinez beside her. Get in, fast. Henry climbed in with Bear. Hannah drove away, controlled but quick. What's happening? You're escaping custody, which makes you a fugitive. Martinez didn't look happy. But it's the only way. Chen found something, proof of who's really behind this. But if you're in jail, they'll kill you before she can present it." "Who?" Martinez handed him a phone. On it a photo. Not Hayward. Not Carson. Director Chen. "No, that's impossible." "It's true. Chen's been compromised. Maybe she always was. She's been feeding information to Hayward's network, sabotaging the investigation from inside." Martinez's voice was bitter. "She set you up, Henry. The whole Carson meeting was her plan." Henry felt sick. "How do you know?" "Because I dug into the Homeland Security raid. Those weren't real HS agents. They were contractors wearing stolen uniforms. Chen provided them." Martinez pulled up more files. "She's been playing both sides, taking down low-level players to look legitimate while protecting the top of the network." "So what do? We run, we hide, and we build a case against her before she finishes burying us." Hannah was crying while she drove. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I got you into this." "You didn't. I chose this." Henry touched her shoulder. "And I'm choosing to see it through." They drove for hours, switching cars twice, using back roads to avoid detection. Finally, they arrived at a ranch in Wyoming, isolated off-grid, owned by someone Martinez trusted. "We can stay here while we figure out our next move." Inside, Henry collapsed onto a couch. Bear jumped up beside him, protective and loyal. "How much time do we have?" "Before they find us. Maybe a week if we're lucky. Days if we're not." Martinez was already setting up communication equipment. "We need to expose Chen before she has you killed or discredited completely." "How?" "The phone, the one Carson had, the real one with Hayward's jury tampering evidence." Martinez pulled up security footage. "I saw where it went. One of the fake HS agents pocketed it. I ran his photo through databases. His name is Marcus Webb, no relation to the officer who died, and he works for a private security firm that Chen uses for off-book operations." Henry felt hope spark. "Can you find him?" "I can. But here's the thing, he's protected. Chen's using him as insurance. If anything happens to her, he releases everything, including evidence that would implicate people even higher than Hayward." "Who?" Martinez was quiet for a moment. "Remember how I said this goes high? I meant high. Federal judges, cabinet members, people you're not supposed to investigate." Hannah looked terrified. "So, what do? We do what your father did. We document everything. We gather evidence, and we release it all at once, too big and too public to bury." Martinez met their eyes. "It'll destroy careers, maybe lives, but it's the only way to win." "When do we start?" "Now." Over the next 5 days, they worked around the clock. Martinez used her contacts to gather evidence. Hannah went through her father's files, finding connections they'd missed. Henry coordinated, planned, prepared for what was coming. And Bear kept watch alert for threats that might find them. On day 6, Martinez found Marcus Webb. He was hiding in a cabin outside Cheyenne, paranoid and scared. "Chen's trying to tie up loose ends. He knows he's next." Martinez showed them surveillance footage. "He's ready to flip. He just needs protection." "Can we offer that?" "Not officially, but I've got friends, people I trust. If we can get Webb to them, they'll keep him safe until he can testify." Henry studied the footage. "When do we go?" "Tonight. Fast extraction before Chen realizes what's happening." They geared up like they were heading into combat, because in a way they were. The drive to Cheyenne took 3 hours. They arrived after midnight, approaching Webb's cabin with caution. Bear alerted before they saw the threat. His hackles rose, a low growl building. "Someone's here," Henry whispered. They found Webb in the cabin, dead, single gunshot to the head, and the phone was gone. Martinez swore. "Chen got here first." How did she know?" "Because I'm good at my job." They turned. Chen stood in the doorway, weapon drawn, flanked by 2 contractors. "Sorry, Martinez, but you were getting too close. And I can't let you ruin 20 years of careful work. Henry's hand moved toward his weapon. Chen's contractors had guns on him immediately. Don't. Hannah dies if you try. Hannah was pale but defiant. You're supposed to be the good guy. I am the good guy. I've been protecting this country from itself. Hayward's network wasn't evil, it was pragmatic. Sometimes you need to break rules to get things done. To keep the economy strong, to maintain stability, to make hard choices politicians won't make. You mean to get rich, Martinez said. You've been taking bribes for years. I've been ensuring the right people stay in power. People who understand how the world actually works. Chen's voice was calm, reasonable. You three are idealists. You think truth and justice matter. But they don't. Power matters, control matters, and I have both. Not for long, Henry said, because here's what you don't know. Chen raised an eyebrow. What's that? I've been recording everything. The wire you put in me still active, and it's been transmitting to a backup system Martinez set up. Henry smiled. Every word you just said was heard by people who can actually be trusted. Chen's face went pale. You're bluffing. Am I? Sirens cut through the night. Real federal agents this time, directed by people Chen didn't control. Her contractors realized they were surrounded and surrendered immediately. Chen's weapon wavered. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. Henry stepped forward. You lost, and now everyone knows it. They arrested Chen on the spot. Miranda writes handcuffs the whole procedure. As they led her away, she looked back at Henry. You think this changes anything? There are others, deeper, higher. You'll never get them all. Maybe not, but we got you, and we got Hayward, and we'll keep going until there's no one left to corrupt the system. Naive, just like Owen was. Henry froze. What did you say? Owen Clark, Hannah's brother, your friend. Chen smiled coldly. You think he died in combat? His unit was betrayed. Someone leaked their position to the enemy. Someone in our network who needed to eliminate an investigation. Henry's blood ran cold. You killed Owen. I gave an order. Someone else pulled the trigger. But yes, he was asking too many questions about contractors stealing supplies, about officers taking bribes. He was going to expose it all. Chen's expression was almost sympathetic. I'm sorry, Henry, but he was a liability, just like you. Henry wanted to hit her, wanted to make her feel the pain she'd caused, but Martinez's hand on his arm stopped him. She's not worth it. Let the system handle her. The system she corrupted. The system we're fixing. One arrest at a time. They watched Chen get loaded into a federal vehicle. The phone she'd taken from Webb was recovered from her car. The evidence was secured, and for the first time in weeks, Henry felt like they might actually win. Hannah was crying. Owen, oh God, Owen! Henry pulled her close. He died fighting for what was right, just like your father. And we're going to make sure their sacrifices weren't for nothing. The trials took 18 months. Hayward was convicted on all counts, sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. Chen was convicted of corruption, conspiracy, and accessory to murder, sentenced to life without parole. Dozens of others in the network were arrested, tried, convicted. The corruption that had infected every level of government was finally being rooted out. Henry testified at every trial. So did Hannah. So did Martinez, who'd been reinstated with full honors. And through it all, Bear was there. A constant presence, a reminder of loyalty and purpose. When the last trial ended, Hannah found Henry on the courthouse steps. It's over. Actually over this time. Yeah. What will you do now? Henry looked at Bear, then at the mountains visible in the distance. Go home. Rest. Figure out who I am when I'm not fighting. Will you stay in touch? Of course. You're family now. That doesn't change. Hannah hugged him tight. Thank you. For everything. For saving me, for finishing what Dad started, for giving Owen justice. Owen saved me first. I just returned the favor. Henry drove back to his cabin, with Bear watching the mountains grow larger on the horizon. The place that had been his prison was now his refuge. The isolation that had nearly killed him was now his healing. He'd spent 3 years running from himself. Then he'd spent 18 months fighting for others. Now, finally, he could just be. The cabin looked exactly as he'd left it. Owen's photo still on the mantel, the rifle by the door, the chair by the window. Henry added something new. Owen's father's watch, the one Hannah had given him. He set it beside the photo. "We did it, brother. We finished the mission." Bear's tail thumped. Outside, the sun was setting over the peaks, painting everything gold and red. Henry sat on his porch with his dog and his coffee, watching the light change. He'd lost people he loved. He'd been betrayed by people he trusted. He'd been broken, framed, hunted. But he'd survived. And more than that, he'd won. Not because he was stronger or smarter or luckier than his enemies, but because he'd refused to quit. Because he'd chosen loyalty over corruption. Because he'd believed that truth still mattered in a world that tried to bury it. Martinez called as stars began appearing. "How you doing?" "Good, actually good." "Hannah wants to start a foundation, in her father's name, to support whistleblowers and protect people who expose corruption. She wants you on the board." "I'll think about it." "Think fast. First meeting's next month." Henry smiled. "Tell her I'm in." "Good. The world needs more people like you, Henry. People who actually give a damn." After they hung up, Henry sat in the quiet, feeling the weight of the last year settle on his shoulders. It was heavy, but it was earned. And for the first time in 3 years, Henry Lawson wasn't carrying guilt. He was carrying purpose. The dog who'd crawled through a blizzard to find him had given him more than a mission. Bear had given him a reason to keep living. And sometimes that was all anyone needed. One loyal companion, one cause worth fighting for. One reason to believe that tomorrow might be better than yesterday. Henry looked at Bear, who was watching the stars with patient wisdom. "Ready for whatever comes next, boy?" The dog's answer was to rest his head on Henry's knee, warm and steady and absolutely certain. And Henry Lawson, who'd once been too broken to believe in anything, realized he'd found exactly what he'd been searching for. Not redemption, you couldn't redeem the past, but purpose, meaning, a future worth living, built on loyalty, courage, and the stubborn refusal to let corruption win. That was Owen's legacy. That was James Clark's sacrifice. That was what Bear had known all along when he'd limped through a blizzard to find the one soldier who could finish the mission. Some wounds never fully heal. Some losses stay with you forever. Some failures haunt you until you die. But that doesn't mean you stop fighting. That doesn't mean you stop believing. That doesn't mean you stop trying to make the world a little bit better than you found it. Because in the end, that's all anyone can do. Show up, fight hard, refuse to quit, and trust that loyalty, the real kind, the kind that walks on 4 legs and never asks for anything in return, will lead you exactly where you need to go. Henry Lawson had learned that lesson the hard way. But he'd learned it, and he'd never forget it again.